indie developers and indie game lovers. Today is a special episode because we're into the new year. I'm here with Eve. Hey, Eve.
Hey, Sarah. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Wow, what a year it was, 2024.
Yeah, it went by really fast again, as all the other years. And we've played some great indie games during that year as well that we want to talk about today. And also what we're looking forward to in this year, 2025.
Great time to do a recap of the last year and to look out for what's coming out this year. And this review that we are doing is not necessarily a complete overview of what's best and what's worst. It's simply what we have played, what we enjoyed, and maybe give you a hint or two what you can try to play.
Exactly. Yeah, from our experience. Sounds good.
So we both looked up 2 games that we played last year. We are going to talk about them step by step, tell you a little bit about them, and then we'll give each one our favorite for this year.
Yeah, let's do it. Do you want to start with your first game?
Yeah, I'll start. That's fine. The first game I picked was a game that was developed by New Object, indie developer from Seattle. What was also really nice is that he was on our show in episode 33. He already actually worked in game development in the early 2000s, and he worked on some of the games that I played in the early 2000s, so like Alien vs. Predator, No One Lives Forever. And then he took a short 20-year break from game dev, and now he's back with his first game, which is also my pick because I played it quite a lot. It's called Ballionaire. It's a physics-based pachinko roguelike board builder. I'll try to untangle that. But before I do that, let me tell you a little bit about pachinko.
I heard about it, but I also really forgot what this game is about.
So it's a blend between pinball and slot machines. And it's actually from the early 1920s. It was imported from America because in America it was a children's game, but it made a transition up to Japan. From there, it developed into a massive entertainment industry.
Okay.
So pachinko itself is basically you drop little steel balls from top to bottom and you try to hit some pockets. And in the way from top to bottom, there are also some pegs. The goal is to try to put the balls into these pockets to earn points and to exchange them for prizes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think I saw that already somewhere.
But the interesting thing about pachinko is when I looked it up, I stumbled upon the Japanese pachinko industry, which basically functions with a so-called free store system.
Okay, what's that?
The free store system is quite amazing. In Japan, you have quite strict gambling laws, so you're not allowed to win any money if it's not state sanctioned. So what the pachinko industry did is they established this so-called free store system, which goes like this. So you're a player and you want to play a round or 10 or 100 of pachinko. So you exchange your money for these steel balls, you drop them, and you're not allowed to win money, but you're allowed to win prizes.
But that prize could also be money.
No, the prize can only be something physical, like a teddy bear or some electronics or whatever.
Okay.
So you win something, you exchange your money for balls, you win a prize when you play pachinko, then you have your bags filled with prizes. So what you can do is you're not allowed to exchange them directly into money, but you are allowed to take your prizes, go to a different store. So that's the second store of the free stores.
That's my free store system. Okay.
The first store is the pachinko parlor. The second store is the exchange booth, where you exchange your prizes for money. And the third store that comes into play is kind of a seller that takes these prizes that you sold to second company and sells them back to the pachinko parlor.
But that's not what Ballionaire is about.
No, exactly. Mine is that. So it was just a nice bit of trivia that I discovered that I found very fascinating and I wanted to share.
I know that, yeah.
And the craziest thing is that this industry with this exchange prizes for money generated $100 billion in 2023.
Dollar, okay.
Yep.
Crazy.
Back to the thing we want to talk about, Ballionaire. So Ballionaire takes these parts of pachinko, the nice parts of pachinko, and combines them with roguelike elements. The gameplay, since we had a New Object on our show, I will just cut in his explanation for a basic round of Ballionaire.
In Ballionaire, your goal is to satisfy an increasing financial tributes you're paying to these elders. So it, largely inspired by Luck Be a Landlord. So it follows a similar kind of score attack pattern there of an increasing amount of money you need to make over a number of rounds. So that's the larger structure. Within a round, you typically drop a ball or multiple balls, maybe we'll see. And the ball will fall down something like a pachinko board I could talk about that really quick, but it falls down a board, hits a number of symbols, what we call triggers. The triggers have interesting effects that can score money or do other things, including spawning other balls. So the ball drops on the board, maybe some more balls are created, money's earned, eventually all the balls leave the screen, and that's the end of your drop. You've got some more money. You'll do this a number of times, 5 to 7 times typically. And then you have to make sure the tribute's met. After each drop, you get kind of the classic roguelike, draft one of 3 things to add to your board. So it's a board builder. It's not a deck builder, it's a board builder. The board is static, and what's different is the way the balls drop effectively. So after you pay a tribute, you also get a draft of what we call a boon, which is similar to say like a relic in Slay the Spire, or like an item from Lucky Landlord, a passive that modifies the rules of the game. And repeat that 9 times or so, and that's a run of Ballionaire.
Which makes us go to the point why I picked Ballionaire, and there are several reasons for it. I just love arcade games. I grew up around arcades. So in Germany, where we are recording, there are, of course, no arcades.
That's pretty sad. I remember when we've been to Croatia, that was, or even Greece, that was crazy. We had so much fun in these arcade halls.
It was the same for me when I was a small boy and we visited Croatia, the home country, the old country, because there were arcades left and right. So every summer I was not on the beach, I was on the arcades. That stuck with me. So I love games that have short bursts where you do score attacks and can create big numbers for strategy. That's actually what Ballionaire does. So every round is around 20 to 30 minutes. It's not pure luck, so you're not just dropping a ball and hoping for the best, but you can bend your luck, so to say, because you have to do strategic picks of so-called triggers. Triggers are the things, as New Object described, that your ball hits, boinks from them, you generate money by it, and then you can hope for synergies of those triggers.
I also played the demo, just a short while though, not as much as you did. But yeah, I remember this being also really playful. Like you have these triggers with faces on them, like smileys, or sometimes they also frown if they're getting hit too often, I think, or something like that. And also these triggers, they can go off anywhere, or they spawn some other balls, which then also are running around like crazy on the board or something like that. So it's really, really playful. And sometimes I kind of lost the overview what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the nice thing about it, the chaos that unfolds when you fill up a complete board. As you mentioned, when you hit the ball, there are several things that can happen. For one, when you boink it, you often gain money. There are also some triggers or some things that you place on the board that you have to attack with the ball. So you have to hit them multiple times and then something happens afterwards. So that's where these effects come in, all underlined with really satisfying sound design. So every time the ball hits something, you'll hear a boink or something like this, which is really nice. When a ball drops and you hit certain triggers, you can also spawn additional balls. So the balls can also multiply within one drop. In the end, the whole board can explode, numbers go up. What I really like is that New Object included so many board types. So in the demo, it was the classic pyramid. So it was the closest to a traditional pachinko machine where you just drop the ball, you have a pyramid-shaped board, you fill it up with triggers and the ball drops from top to bottom. But there are total right now 5 different boards that you can play, and each one has its own gimmick. So there's this pyramid board, which is more of the classic drop ball and earn points mechanic. Then you have a pinball machine inspired board,
Nice.
where you have your action bumpers that you can control as a player with left and right mouse button. And you can shoot up the ball when it hits the bottom up to 10 times. So you have kind of a dynamic in the game. You have a slot machine inspired board, where you have 3 slots, and each time you drop a ball, these slots start, and depending on what outcome is, you get certain buffs as well for your drop. You have a wheel where the triggers actually move, so they're not static in one place, but every time you drop the ball, your triggers that you placed are on a different position, and the wheel keeps turning around. And you have a fishing pond where your ball is replaced by a boat that drives from left to right, and it drops not a ball but a fishing hook. And the nice thing about the fishing hook, when you drop it down, it doesn't only drop down, but it also retracts upwards. You double the distance traveled, downturn being that the boat is moving and you cannot influence where it moves. You're also inclined to place your triggers in different positions.
And then also fish triggers?
Didn't check that, but there are a lot of triggers that you can unlock. So I'm not done 100% right now. I'm still unlocking stuff left and right, and that's the meta of the game. Every run that you finish, you earn some points, and then you can unlock additional triggers. New Object is also addressing a thing that often bothers me in roguelikes, because sometimes when you unlock more stuff, the chance increases that you don't get the stuff that you actually want. And what New Object is doing in one of the patches that are up and coming, that you can disallow some triggers from your game. So even if you unlocked it, you can just
Deactivate it?
Deactivate it, exactly.
Right. Okay. Oh, that's nice. Okay, so you can actually, this is also kind of a strategy game, so you can just go a different way, different pathway. If you like these triggers especially, then you can upgrade those instead of the other ones.
Exactly, or use them, because the pool doesn't get diluted with other things that you don't want.
Okay.
Because every time you unlock something, the pool of things that could be offered to you between each drop of the ball gets larger and larger. And maybe you don't want some certain things to be in the pool, and you can just disable them.
Nice. Okay.
Which is a nice feature. Goes hand in hand with the other features that New Object is including or has included already in the game. What I really love is you have a really cool pause and resume functionality. So even if you just have to take a break for whatever reason, you hit the pause button, you can close the game. And when you boot it up again, you can continue where you left off, which is a really cool feature I like. You have a lab where you can test certain combinations and strategies. So as I mentioned, there are so many triggers, and some also have synergies. And in this lab, you can simply, it's like a sandbox that you can use where you can simply place triggers.
Can you also mix them or?
Try different strategies. So you choose from the unlocked triggers, you just place them without having to go through the whole gameplay loop. And you also don't gamble for the triggers. It's not a fixed selection that you have. You can choose all of the things that are available and just keep placing them, drop a ball and see if some combinations are more viable than others.
It's cool.
Which really helps to go into this, I would say, meta aspect of the game of score attacks. So of course, you don't only want to meet the required tribute as New Object described, but maybe you also want to go for a high score. New Object also talked about mod support. I haven't tested this one out yet, but I think there's a huge potential for cool mods.
Sounds like it, yeah. Additional triggers that people come up with.
Yeah. For me, the one thing that came to mind was the guys that we like to watch, Red Letter Media. So I'm looking for my Plinketto best of the worst. Also the small references that are littered throughout the game. Just one small example that I found really charming is there's a block trigger. And if you hit it from above with the ball, you just get money. But it has a special feature that when you hit it from the bottom, so if you somehow manage to boink the ball to this block trigger from the bottom, a coin spawns, which instantly reminded me of Super Mario, because this plumber also from the first game I played, you smash your head against the block from bottom to top, you spawn a coin. So Ballionaire, my first pick for a game that I played the most, that I also enjoyed the most in 2024. If you haven't tried it, try it. I think there's still a demo up, and even if it isn't, the game is dirt cheap for what it offers. And also make sure to check out the episode where New Object talked about the game.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's a great interview. He's a really great guy. And yeah, it's a cool game to easily pick up and go. And if you don't want to spend many, many hours on a game, with just a couple of minutes, I think that's the best way to go. Yeah.
So Sarah, what was your first pick?
So my first pick is something that both of us played a lot last year.
And I have an idea what it was.
It's Element TD2. It wasn't released last year. It's been out since 2021. But I don't know, last year it suddenly inspired us to just play each day a couple of rounds. Like both of us, like we like TD games, tower defense games. We also played a lot back in Warcraft, StarCraft, Dota times a couple of years back. And then Element TD2 is a standalone game, which is really great, really focusing on this mod that's been out in the real-time strategy games. And the developer is Element Studios, fitting. And they're still updating and patching the game. So the last update was done in August 2024. And also now 3 years back, DLC came out as well. Amazing DLC.
Wait, amazing or amazing?
Both, I would say. They missed their chance to do amazing. But yeah, in tower defense games, you typically build towers. You have a couple of creeps which go from point A to point B, and they have a dedicated pathway. And you build your towers right and left according to these paths. And in the amazing DLC game, you have some more freedom. So you can place blockers and towers in a way that the creeps have to change their paths to get to point B.
So it's not a fixed path that is carved out of the map already, but you kind of have more of a field and you have to place blockers and influence the path that the creeps are taking.
So it's more tactical. You have to be more strategic. How do you want to place these? Not that the creeps go in a straight line, but they have to go around and they take longer to get to point B. So Element TD2 is classic tower defense. You have different modes, FFA, team play, war, which is also an interesting mode, I think. We have to try it out still. So 2 teams compete on the same map. And as far as I understand it, like you have also your own creeps. And if you shoot at them, you can heal them. So this is also quite nice. We have to try this out, definitely.
Yeah,
but what we played a lot last year is the co-op mode.
Absolutely.
So you play on the same map and you have more creeps than coming in and you have to defeat all of them. Or at least stop most of them to getting to their goal. In general, you have to survive 55 waves. And we almost got there. So just a typical round of Element TD2 is first you have to choose a map and then you have 1 minute to get familiar with the map and see the outlay and the paths that the enemies will take. And then you start off with a cheap arrow and cannon tower and you have to place them pretty much effectively at the beginning.
Placement matter?
Yeah, very much. I mean, like I've discovered if you place a tower just 1 tile to the right or to the left, then it has a different outcome. So it's crazy. So you really have to be a little bit tactical here. And in the beginning, you can already choose your first element. So that's why it's called Element TD, because there are 6 elements in total that you can play with: fire, water, earth, nature, light, and darkness. And each one has a different attack. So in the beginning, you can choose already your first element. And then after 5 waves, always you can choose another one. And yeah, there are different combinations possible depending on what you choose. So you can also choose fire 3 times. You can always choose the same element up to 3 times. And then that can have an outcome that you can build better towers which need the fire element.
So the fire tower gets stronger if you choose the same element multiple times.
For instance, exactly. Or if you want to build a poison tower, I think you need to level up fire and darkness. And you can also choose to take all the elements, but only on level 1, for instance. And you can build also a special tower with them.
Periodic tower.
Oh yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah, exactly.
That has kind of a different damage type, I suppose. So there's also damage types like fire, water, and the creeps vulnerable to different elements each round. Creeps.
Yeah. That's also why co-op mode was so cool, actually, because then you can choose, okay, I'll go poison tower and focus more on fire and darkness element towers. But then I say, okay, I'll go with nature and light, for instance, because then I'll have better chance killing the creeps that are vulnerable to that one. So
it really embraces this co-op factor because you really have to communicate, align your strategies, because if you just build your favorite tower and you just focus on one element, maybe it's not enough to stop all of the creeps, but you really have to adjust. So if your co-op partner is lacking in one element, maybe you take this element to complement the choice.
Exactly. So that was cool, really working together, but sometimes also really stressful.
That's true.
And well, I don't want to say frustrating because that sounds negative. It's frustrating in a good way. And yeah, if you're also getting confused what towers to build and stuff like that, in the game there's also a tower table which shows all the combinations, also what you need to get there. So that's also pretty cool.
And it's also a quite chill game. So of course, it's not like you have to have 500 APM to do something, but you have time in between the rounds where you can really strategize, think it over, and take your time to do stuff.
Exactly. I mean, even if it can get stressful at times, we always played this in the mornings, on the weekends with a nice cup of tea. And then, yeah, it kind of felt relaxing. I know, it sounds strange, but yeah. It's really cool. So yeah, generally, I can really recommend this game if you haven't played it yet, or if you also want to try out the mod in Warcraft to StarCraft and you haven't played it yet, do that for sure. I can really say that it's great fun and you have a fun time doing this. I'm also really happy about the standalone game. It's easy to pick up and also ideal for a quick and fun gaming session. And we even tried the hard mode and the super hard mode, not sure what it's called again. But there, yeah, you really need to be very tactical and needs almost a perfect build order, I would say, and know where you place your towers effectively. So, yeah, we still need to finish that, by the way.
Yeah, but it eases you into these difficulties. So it's not like you start out with them and it's so hard that you cannot do it. When you start with the normal mode, you really get a hang of all of the mechanics and then you can increase. And with harder difficulties, the creeps have more energy. So basically it scales with the difficulty, but it's not like you are completely lost when you try it on normal. For normal, it's more cozy, and I would say hard is also quite manageable. But the higher difficulty tiers, of course, are a higher challenge.
Yeah, that can really get frustrating in a way.
But still fun.
Still fun.
What's your favorite tower?
So I also really like the Poison Tower, but I also liked this special tower. I think it's combination nature, light, and something else, where you kind of launch the creeps forward, which sounds weird because you don't want them to proceed. But it launches them forward and then it has an area of effect damage type. And the creeps which are in front, they're getting damaged a lot. So you kind of stop them who are already too far. So I really like that tower because it just launches them a couple of seconds, takes one creep from the back and then launches them forward like boom.
And turns everyone in its path and then...
Not in its path, only the ones in front. But I really like that one.
Okay.
But you also need to combine it with another strong tower for it to be effectively. So you picked more poison, so they take damage over time for a couple of seconds. So that really helped if the creep is already close to its goal. But yeah, it's a lot of towers which are really, really fun to play with. And I would also recommend trying out a couple of different types just to get the hang of it. And yeah, some side notes, like Element Studios, they also released another TD game last year, September 2024. It's called Axon TD, AXON. It's also been in early access before. And this is something like their Maze DLC that they've done for Element TD2. So you have to change the paths of the enemies or set the paths to begin with. And you have to do that before each round. So there's always a pause in between rounds, and you also can do that in co-op mode and discuss where to place blockers and towers. This is really, really strategic. And we've tried it out once or twice. I think so.
Is it still in early access?
I know it's out already. But yeah, we still need to look into this. Not sure if it's kind of my thing, to be honest. Because you start with a plain map and then you have to set these paths and I don't know. Yeah, you really have to give it a thought, I think. It takes a lot of time to get used to, maybe. It seems like it, but it could be fun.
Like we learned from one other Warcraft 3 tower defense map, I think there's a good saying for it. I'll give it a shot.
Give it a shot. Work. So that was Element TD2.
It was really fun to play with you in co-op, and I'm looking forward to beat the hardest difficulty mode. I think we took a break for a while because we just couldn't finish this one map, but now hearing you talk about it, I'm instantly again up for another round.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Let's do that.
Yeah, but first we have to finish Ready or Not.
Oh yeah, oh god.
Quick side note, if you haven't tried it and you have someone to play with, try Ready or Not. It's also a really fun game.
It's also really fun. Yeah, but you really have to talk a lot with each other. Okay, I'm going to the right, going to the left. I see someone. Where? I don't know how to describe it.
And since we are married, communication is not our strong suit. But we try.
Try our best.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So my second game that I picked, because I already told you that I'm more into arcade-like games, which are quick and so. And of course, the second pick that I made is Factorio Space Age, which is the complete opposite of an arcade-like game. What is Factorio? Just a few quick facts. Developer Whoop. So Whoop or Whoop Studios. They are from the Czech Republic. Factorio has been out since March 2013, the first alpha of the game. So it's quite a lot of things that have happened since the first alpha release, which was post crowdfunding. In February 2016, it released in early access on Steam. In August 2020, Factorio, the base game, released in version 1.0. And why we are talking, or why I picked it now as one of my choices for the games that I liked most in 2024 is the expansion that released October 2024.
It's been a long time since February 2016.
Yeah,
it's crowdfunding before. Wow, yeah,
it's amazing. And if you would summarize Factorio, basically it's not a game, but it can be a full-time job because not because it's a chore, but it can become so addicting. I will talk about the gameplay a little bit, but before I do that, I found a nice piece of trivia about the studio Whoop. W-U-B-E.
Okay.
Whoop. It's an abbreviation for the Polish saying "Wszystko będzie." I'm not 100% sure if I'm pronouncing this correct, but I hope for the best. Wszystko będzie, which means something like everything will be done eventually.
Right.
So I instantly liked this when I found it and thought I'd include it because it reminded me so much of the old 2000s Blizzard motto, when it's done. They know there's a lot of things that have to be done and they will be done eventually, which sounds really reassuring from hearing that from a developer.
But Factorio is more endless?
A good segue to the gameplay. So if you haven't played Factorio, just to give you a short overview about the game, imagine you crash land on a planet. The planet is called Nauvis. And your goal, really short and sweet, is to build a rocket and to leave the planet again. And the core gameplay of the game can be boiled down to 4 steps. And the first step is to consume the resources that are on the planet to build stuff. The second step is to destroy the environment in the process by polluting. And because you have to build a factory, and factories typically are very dirty. And the third step is to expand your factory. And the fourth step is to go back to the first step. So basically that's the gameplay loop. Consume, destroy, expand, repeat.
I'm stuck in a loop.
But it's a very satisfying loop. The first thing that you do with your engineer that has no name is to gather resources. So basic raw materials that you need to build your first things, like coal, iron, copper, stone, water, wood. And later you can also collect more fancy stuff like oil and uranium. And from these raw resources, you start refining them into more advanced materials like iron beams or plastics or electronic circuits later on. And you can combine these things into more advanced things. So from raw material to high-tech product, you have to build a factory to produce these things, because if you start producing them by hand, which you also could, you wouldn't get very far, because production of these things takes a lot of time, and your time is also a resource, a hidden resource in the game that you have to take care of. So instead of doing it all by yourself, a good engineer always tries to automate things. You're not alone on the planet. There's also a bug-like fraction there that are the natives on this planet. Remind me a little bit of Starship Troopers, so these bugs that you see. And the more you interfere with their habitat, or the more you pollute, the more aggressive those bugs become. And all around your base that you start, these nests start forming and growing, because there's a balance between, well, I think there's a balance between pollution and growth of these bugs. You can say they feed on pollution and get larger and more aggressive.
So the longer you take, the more monsters spawn.
The bigger your factory becomes, the more aggressive they become. It tries to keep a natural balance between the growth of your factory and the growth of the enemy that starts attacking you.
Okay.
I never tried what happens if you just stand around. Maybe you'll die of boredom. Who knows? So you gather raw resources, you start building your factory, you start automating the factory with the end goal to build a rocket.
Oh, okay.
And in between, there are a lot of steps that I'm omitting. Last year, I really got into the game before the expansion released, and I played around to launch the rocket. It took me around 100 hours, I would say.
Okay.
And the nice thing about the base game Factorio is that the factory that you build, you rise with the challenges. So it's not like you start out and you already built this complex thing, but at first you just want to solve small puzzles like, how do I create a steel beam? So you have to connect some resources together, start automating and start building these beams.
So the game doesn't take you by the hand or has some sort of tutorial, so you need to find out things?
It has a lot of tutorials, actually, so it explains all of the mechanics in a quite nice way. It's very interactive, so you can also take short tutorials in between to see how certain functionalities are. So all of this is really nicely covered. I was talking more about how do you get stuff from point A to point B, and for some materials or for some things that you produce, you need some more raw materials or some in-between intermediate materials, and you need to combine them in a way. And one resource is also the space that you have. So if you're mining iron ore on the left-hand side of your base and you put your steel beam production on the lower right-hand side of your base and they are 20 kilometers apart, you somehow have to connect the one thing to the other thing.
Okay.
And one thing that you use in Factorio are belts. So you produce something, you put it on a belt, and then it gets transported to the next production facility that you can use to produce this intermediate material. And this intermediate material you can then use to produce something that's higher up on the tech tree.
Okay.
During your run, there's also a thing that is called science. So you have to climb the tech tree. And the higher you climb in the tech tree, the more advanced stuff you can produce. You have to take care of defense. As I mentioned before, when the aliens start attacking, you have to have something to be prepared. So produce some guns, produce some turrets. It's also kind of a little nod to tower defense. So you have to defend your base and you have to explore the map, which is gigantic on this Novus planet. In 100 hours, just to give you an impression, I would say, I zoomed out and it was just a small fraction of the other map that is still covered in fog of war.
Yeah, this small square, that's you. And your factory already was quite huge.
You can connect with different networks. The more your factory spans, you of course don't want to go by foot. You can build a buggy that will take you from point A to point B. You can automate the process of gathering resources by connecting a train network or a drone network later on, the more advanced you are. What you really want to do, or the core mechanic after you got set up and got used to it, is really to optimize. How many materials or science per minute or materials per minute can I produce with my automation? And it's really a game about optimizing, not only climbing the tech tree, but also optimizing the existing things. Do I need to take a long path to take something from A to B, or do I move it somewhere else to have shorter ways to produce something?
Is it also when you researched some different tech, then you can also rework some of the belts or make them better?
That's a nice thing about the game. You don't get any penalties for redesigning your base. So it's not like you lose resources when you destroy something or place it on another area. You can simply right-click on it. It will get put back into your inventory and you can place it again.
Nice.
So there's not too much penalties there. The main thing is to find patches of raw resources and then connect them into your factory and try to do it in a way that it doesn't end up in completely spaghetti, that you don't have belts connecting left and right and you have to rediscover how you planned it and so.
And then becomes pasta.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the base game right now. So in October, the guys from Boop, in the spirit of everything will be done eventually, they also tackled the thing that I found a little anticlimactic when I played it the first time, because you spent 100 hours, you optimize the factory, you know how everything works, you finally build the rocket, you press the launch rocket or launch satellite button, and what you got then was a small pop-up that said, congratulations, you launched a rocket into space. That's it. You can still continue playing because it's still satisfying to optimize the factory, but the overall goal really was to launch this rocket. You launched it. Congratulations, game done.
Sounds like a Dark Souls ending.
Yeah, with more story. That's what the guys really tackled. So the DLC, or it's not a DLC. I would not call it DLC. It's really a classic expansion pack. So in the old school style, it's not just some add-on, but it's really a complete expansion of the system, because now you launch the rocket and this is where Space Age really picks up.
Mm-hmm.
So you do all of the stuff that we just talked about, and now the rocket is in space and you continue in space. So it really picks up where the base game left off.
And you do the same thing just in space?
No, not really, because what happens next is you're on a space platform, and this platform has different mechanics than the static planet. On the planet, you just move everywhere and try to gather resources. In space, you have to adapt your playstyle because the platform that you use is moving through space. And you're not the only thing that's moving through space, but there's also asteroids that are moving towards you. So you have to think about defending against asteroids. You have to think about gathering resources from those asteroids. And the overarching goal from those space platforms is to harvest resources in space, defend against asteroids, and to travel to different planets.
Oh my God.
And this is where it really opens up, because there are a total of 4 new planets that you can discover. Each one of them with a different theme, so to say. So you have Vulcanus, which is a volcanic planet. You have a lot of molten metals that you can gather. You have Fulgora, which is a desert planet that is plagued by lightning storms. So you have to take care, or you have to find ways to avoid these lightning, or to harvest lightning to generate energy, an example.
So you have to dodge lightning strikes like in Final Fantasy X 100 times?
I don't know if you get something for it, but could be. Yeah, maybe there's a small Easter egg.
I don't think in that game you got anything for it as well.
You have Gelba, which is a swamp-like planet with a lot of biodiversity. So there are exotic plants and biomass that you can gather to also advance your science. And you have Aquilo, which is an ice-covered plant where you have to fight against sub-zero temperatures and have a cryogenic system that you can also use to advance your science. So each of these planets has its own specialties or specialization and also introduces different play styles that you have to use.
So you have 5 maps in total, like you have the space station and the 4 planets.
Exactly.
Oh my god. And you can also go back to the beginning as well.
Yep. So that's everything that you can do. When I started Space Age DLC, I started fresh because I just wanted to see what else has happened. In the base game, they also advanced the base game, Factorio. So if you don't own this expansion, there's also a tons of stuff that they have improved with version 2.0 of the base game, Factorio, which was introduced the same time around with Space Age.
So is it more like bug fixing or will
Bug fixing, quality of life stuff, they are really, really committed to listen to feedback from their community, which is really nice. If you check out their website, they have a comprehensive wiki about every change that they do, starting from the first initial release up to today. So tons of stuff. Really committed, really cool company and really, really cool game. And if you haven't tried it before, you like building games and you like somewhat optimizing or whatever, I think you should really give Factorio a shot. This game got me hooked. So huge recommendation from my point.
Amazing, amazing.
Now that we talked about Factorio Space Age, Sarah, what's your second pick for 2024?
It's Portal Revolution.
Oh, nice. Portal.
Yeah.
Always good.
Yeah.
Always a good choice.
For sure. And it's so crazy because I played this game and I haven't played any of the 2 Portal games for ages. So I kind of course, knew what it's about, but I was like, oh yeah, the portal gun. Oh yeah, the cubes that you need to solve puzzles and stuff like that. So all these memories came back.
I remember a lot of co-op fun in Portal 2 with you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we played in co-op.
Those 2 cute robots.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah. I like the voices as well.
Exactly, yeah. So with Portal, when I hear Portal, I always have only associated great memories. Really creative. So Portal Revolutions, what is it?
It's a crazy project. So it's been released in January 2024, and just a couple of days ago, at the point of this recording, they did an anniversary update with in-game developer commentary, improved graphics, lighting or more visual cues in maps, and also some bug fixing. And the developer is called Second Phase Software, and they describe themselves as a global volunteer team of Portal fans. So it's
a fan-made game.
Exactly. It's actually a fan mod, which is crazy. And according to the devs, they've developed this for 8 years in total.
Wow.
Crazy. And it's a free mod for Portal 2 owners.
Ah, nice. Cool.
So
yeah, I think I read about it, but I just installed it, but haven't played it yet. So what's it about? Is it also a co-op?
It's a single-player game, and it's set in, story-wise, it's set in the time between Portal 1 and Portal 2. So I also watched the ending of Portal 1 recently, because I was like, okay, where did we left off at some point? If you don't want any spoilers, and if you want to play Portal 1 still, I haven't played it yet, so just close your ears for a couple of minutes. So in Portal 1, well, in general, you are a test subject. So that was always the case. And you're in this testing facility and you're not quite sure what's going on. But there's this AI which tells you, hey, you have to go through all of our test chambers and solve these puzzles. And in the end, you'll get some cake.
For apertures, science. Yeah.
Exactly, yes. And yeah, the goal of this facility is, of course, to gather some data and to use you. And it's actually really a dark story. But I think why it's also so famous is not only because of the puzzle solving, which is also really, really great, but also it has some really funny dialogue and sequences, which is really charming.
Absolutely. I remember the voice actors were also stellar. So for the AI GLaDOS, it was amazing to see so much sarcasm and spite covered in passive-aggressive stuff that it keeps telling you and reminding you that you're just a human or a rat in the cage that needs to solve puzzle. Exactly. Is it the same in Portal Revolutions?
Almost. So they also did some voice acting, which I really appreciate. The voice acting is okay. It's totally fine. But of course, here and there, I was like, doesn't quite get there where the originals were. But it's all right. It's also charming. I think it's great that they did that at all.
I'm still flashed that a team of fans come together and build something that is comparable to Portal.
Yeah.
It's a really huge task to achieve, and I commend them for that.
Yeah, for sure. There are some things like with saving and loading, sometimes it's a bit glitchy. It still works, but there are some things where I'm like, okay, it seems unstable at some point, but they're still fixing stuff, and you can play without being scared that your save game is lost or something like that. So everything is fine there. So it's still a great mod, definitely. And it has, in general, 40 new puzzles and test chambers and around 8 hours of gameplay. I need longer. So I'm still already at 10 hours, I think. Because I'm also stuck on this one puzzle, which drove me nuts. Seriously. So I can also tell you where I was stuck and also describe the gameplay for anyone who hasn't played Portal at all. So you are a test subject and you have this portal gun. So you can shoot 2 portals to solve the puzzle, like to get through the chamber and to proceed to the next room.
And the portals, when you shoot one, you come out of the other, which is the big gimmick of this whole thing. So you shoot a portal at one point and then you go through and you come out at wherever you shot the second portal.
Exactly. So you can also rush through the first portal, which is the blue one, and then rush out the second portal, which is the orange one. And then you can launch yourself to another platform, for instance. And you can also let objects like this cube that you mostly need to solve puzzles with fall through one portal and then let it goes out through the next. And then it lands at your feet if it actually spawns somewhere else. So yeah, it's really, you have to really think a lot for the later puzzles for sure to know how to get through this room. And some puzzles in Portal Revolution are really challenging. They can get really hard. In my opinion, like when I was stuck with this one puzzle. So this puzzle also shows what makes Portal Revolution special. It's, in general, more of the same.
Okay.
So you have the portal gun, you have the portals, you have the chambers, you have to get out of this facility. In Portal Revolution, the goal overall is that you have to repair this facility, because at the end of Portal 1, it's getting destroyed.
Yep.
So you also then see that in all of these test chambers, because everything is broken and decaying. So you have plants around and you have broken glass and you have flooding. So yeah.
So it's lived in. Does it build up to the difficulty? Because you said it can be quite challenging. So the first puzzles that I do, are they solvable? Or is it already that I have to have played Portal 1 to have any idea what's going on?
They're solvable because there is some kind of tutorial, I would say, because at first you have to reach the portal gun. You not have it in the beginning. And then you start off with only one portal, so only with the blue one. And the orange one, the second one, is fixed in a fixed location. So you don't have to think about where do I shoot both portals, but only where do I have to shoot the first one.
Okay, so it guides you at first with the position of the second.
Exactly. And then only after a couple of chambers later, it really takes a long time, I think, you get then the freedom to use both portals however you like.
If you haven't played any Portal, what order would you recommend to play them in? So would you say Portal 1, then Portal 2, or would you say Portal 1, Revolutions, and then 2? Because you said their story is based in between.
Yeah, exactly. Then maybe actually I would recommend how the story proceeds then. So Portal 1, Portal Revolution, and then Portal 2, okay, to be honest.
In between piece.
Yeah, I think you can slide that in between. Yeah, that makes it special, Portal Revolution, because everything is destroyed. And in this one puzzle, so you go into the chamber and you immediately see a launch pad. So if you step on it, you're getting launched towards a wall. And of course, on that wall, you have to shoot your first portal. And then the second portal there where you want to land. So it's a little bit further to the right. There's also another wall. So you shoot the second portal and you're getting launched onto a platform that way. Then there's also this cube that you have to shoot out of this gigantic tube, which falls out there. And with that cube, you need to place it on a trigger, so a door opens at the end. And there's also a power switch, which you can turn off, which you also need to turn off to place the cube onto the trigger, because it's blocked by I would say, electronic wall somehow. I don't know.
Force field.
Something like that. But if I turn the power off, I am on the ground and I need to be higher up to get to the door. So that was really difficult. I was like, how am I supposed to do this? And then you start thinking, because you have an idea how this puzzle is supposed to be solved if the chamber would be intact. But because there is like broken windows and there's flooding also underneath you, so you can't get to places everywhere where you were supposed to be going if the chamber still would be intact. So you start thinking, okay, I need to solve this differently probably because everything is destroyed. I don't know how the developers did this. I don't know if they designed it in a way to how to solve this chamber if everything is still up and running. And then they develop different ways how to solve it if everything is destroyed. I don't know how they've done that, but it feels that way. And I think this feeling counts. So you start thinking, okay, maybe I can shoot through this broken glass and I need to think creatively how to get out here. So that makes it special, but it also makes it more difficult that way.
So it breaks the mold a little bit because when the facility is right and working as intended, so there's one way to solve it, but with Revolutions, if everything is broken down, maybe there's another path that you have to take because some original paths are already broken down and there are open some other paths that you can take.
Exactly.
Sounds fine. Sounds really fun.
Definitely. So I definitely recommend this, even though you really have to, you sit there puzzled at some point. But just keep trying and you get there for sure. So, and definitely if you also want to find more about the developer and about the mod, there's also a talk available on YouTube, which was recorded at an event in Austria, I believe. And the lead developer talks about the mod and its creation. Also nice to listen in.
Ah, cool. Where do I get this mod again? I didn't catch that. So I can...
Just on Steam. Yeah, it's on Steam and it's free if you own Portal 2.
So just buy Portal 2 and then I can go to the workshop and get it there.
And not the workshop, just type in Portal Revolution on Steam and then immediately shows up. So yeah, it's a standalone game.
Nice. Since Valve still can't count to free and release another Portal game.
Yeah, even with Half-Life. Where's Half-Life 3? Oh, okay.
So the fans community will take care of it.
Exactly.
Cool.
So if you like, we can dive into 2025 now that we've described what we've played in 2024.
Yeah, let's do it.
What are you looking forward to?
So one game I'm really looking forward to is called Desktop Explorer.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I also tried this one. Is a demo still online?
I think it is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm 99% sure that since the moment of recording that the demo is still online. The game is developed by indie studio Recurring Dream Studio. Does not have a fixed release date yet, but I still hope for a 2025 release. Developers, if you're listening, no pressure. Desktop Explorer by Recurring Dream Studio, a really nice game. I will describe the gameplay spoiler-free because it's a story-driven game.
Okay.
Imagine you boot up an old computer that you got and you are greeted with a boot screen interface. So it counts up the megabytes of RAM that you have. It tells you what processor you have and so on. Then you get booted into an operating system and everything happens on screen. So basically it's like you sit in front, you start the game, then your whole screen turns into this boot menu and then it really looks like you're booting up an operating system.
You also showed me this expression. There's a word for it. For this kind of
this kind of style is diegetic inspired interface.
Okay.
So what is diegetic? You see the same things that the player you're playing sees. It's not like you have some floating damage numbers or something around, but you really use stuff that is physically in the game, which provides all of the information. So everything your character sees, you see. Most famous example for this thing is, I would say, Fallout 3 and 4. When you open a menu, you're not seeing a window, but you look at your right arm and pull up your Pip-Boy.
Pip-Boy, yeah, all right.
The Pip-Boy is a famous example. I first heard this term and I really liked it when I was talking to Marco, and Luca from Evil Licorice about their game.
But he's not called Marco, right?
No. It was three guys, Marco, and Luca. in episode 23, where we talked about their game Retro Gadgets, which, by the way, you should also check out. Not only the episode, but the game, because it's also really fun. And it also embraces this style of game. So what your character sees, you see, and this is the way how it conveys information. And for Desktop Explorer, like the name tells us, basically you explore desktops. So you boot up a computer, you have files on the computer, of course, because it was all pre-owned. It was owned by your uncle who gave it to you. Why the uncle gave it to you is also part of the story. I won't go too much into it, as said, because you really should experience the story yourself. But just to describe, you boot the computer, you go to the login screen, you are greeted with 3 users that you could choose. So you click on the first one, you see you need a password, you click on the admin user, you also need a password, which you don't have, and there's one user that you can access. So you click on the user, you log in, and are greeted with a Windows 95 interface. I can't describe it other. And it instantly gave me this feeling of nostalgia, because that was how I got into computers. So you boot up this old, clutter-free, basic interface. You have a nice desktop with some files. Already some files are opened. One of those files is a text document with a to-do list that apparently you as a user wrote, where again this diagenic interface comes into play, because the information that you get is in form of a text document with a task list. And on these tasks, you have things like check the computer, see what files are installed. You found some pictures that you want to email to your mom. And you have some 2 tasks that you still need to check, like check the so-called Chronolog software and install desetup.exe. Okay, so
Will do.
Yeah, 2 things that you need to do. What's a Chronolog? What you do as a player, since it's an operating system, you go to Start and to the taskbar, click Start, pop-up comes up and you see all of the installed programs, and lo and behold, there's a Chronolog. You open this Chronolog, and this is where the story really kicks in, and where I said, wow, this game is going to be great, because this Chronolog opens, it's kind of a diary that your uncle wrote for you. And I give you some, I know I promised I will not go into any spoilers, but it's one of the first things that you do, so I'll spoil it a little bit just to give you an idea about it. So when you open this Chronolog, some really nice melancholic music kicks in, and this diary opens, and the text does not simply appear, but it appears in like it's written by a typewriter. So it appears step by step, line by line. And your uncle tells you a little bit that he doesn't know how long he will still be able to write something. I won't go into all of the details, but it's more melancholic and sad. It opens with a small poem, which is, if we're apart, look at the moon, so I will do too. If I'm gone, look at the stars, for I'm with you.
Oh.
So really sad.
I start crying.
Oh. You kind of get, without spelling it out, what's going on. The rest of the Chronolog, so this is the first entry, and your goal in this demo at least is to unlock the other entries. And to do this, because now you're stuck in this Chronolog, nothing else happens, you have a second task, which is install DE Explorer Exe.
Okay, will do.
You go to the downloads folder. What do you do in the operating system? You go to the download folder. There's the Exe, you install it, and now you have your Desktop Explorer. And from there, this adventure path opens up. So you have to solve text-based puzzles in this Desktop Explorer to unlock passwords, to progress in the story. So the gameplay loop is solve a puzzle in this Desktop Explorer, text-based or picture-based or whatever, then use this information to unlock different Chronolog options and to progress in the story. And I won't go too much into it any further, because I think it's really worth for you to experience it yourself. It got me hooked on the mood it creates. It's a perfect combination of music, emotion, and overall storytelling. I really like it. It also pinched this nostalgia nerve, because the interface is really perfect. If you would just look at it, it really looks like an operating system from the early 2000s, 90s.
Great.
And I can't wait to find out how the story continues. And I really, really hope for a release in 2025. And even if it takes longer, no problem, I'm willing to wait.
Yeah, this demo also really hooked me. I also like these games where you have to do research, kind of. It's a different kind of puzzle game. Maybe I have to do some research, like on Google, or I have to search through some files. So you don't know exactly what to do, but you're just searching around in this computer environment, which is great.
Exactly. So you have the whole operating system to explore and also these other accounts that are still locked. You have to unlock them, and then there's some files over there. It's like when you're sitting in front of a computer that's not yours and you are tasked with finding out some information, and that's you go on the search, which is really nice.
Oh, this is awesome.
Desktop Explorer, try it out. Strong recommendation, and I can't wait for the game.
Hopefully it's getting released this year. Also, a game which is totally different from this one.
Yeah, so what's your pick for 2025?
It's called Mandragora. It's
Okay, what's that? What's a Mandragora?
good question. It's a bit hard to pronounce, which is one thing I don't like completely. But the game looks really cool.
So Sarah is into Dark Souls games.
Totally, yes.
So it's like, what's Mandragora about?
Mandragora is, I think it's a simple story. I only played the demo as well, so it didn't reveal too much. But in general, a world is destroyed and you gotta save the world. So it's that kind of story. But I think it's going deeper as well. I don't think it's as cryptic as the Souls games.
You couldn't get much more cryptic than the Souls games, where you need a YouTuber to explain all of the lore, hidden lore.
I think Buddy is the best one. He's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also love the lore in the Souls games, in the Dark Souls and Elden Ring. It's nice environmental storytelling.
I think Mandragora seems like you might understand more.
What's the gameplay? Is it the same like Elden Ring?
Almost. It's a 2.5D game. So it's also some kind of jump and run, I would say. It's a Metroidvania style as well. So it's a mixture of both. So it's like
Blasphemous or something like that.
Yeah, you could compare it to that actually. So I don't really know if I'm good at it because I suck at Metroidvania games. But of course, because it's Souls-like, I want to give it a try when it comes out.
Yeah, but you are great at Souls-like games.
Yeah, hopefully I can compensate.
I think you can.
And I really like the art style and reminded me of the Ori games. So it's very picturesque and dreamy, even though it's a dark fantasy world. But I really like that. And yeah, the gameplay, it seems very punishing, but it's supposed to be. In general, what you've been also familiar with Souls-like games, you have to fight bosses, you have to gather some kind of souls to level up, meet NPCs, and you also have to try to make allies with them. That's what the description of the game tells you. So I think this might be getting very important when you then play the full game. It didn't seem as important in a demo, but I think that could influence the story somehow. And you also discover new skills along your way. There's also a skill tree, which is different to the Souls games.
So it's a real skill tree like in Diablo or something, so you can skill for lightning or whatever?
It seems like it. So from what I remember from the demo is that you do have some choices. I don't know how big this skill tree will get, but this is something that's different. And you also have to craft weapons and items. So similar to Elden Ring, I think there could be more crafting though available. And yeah, and focus is that you have to make choices. So dialogue choices as well. Also the story is written by Brian Mitsoda. He is the writer of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines.
Oh, nice.
So there must be more to it than
Can imagine.
Instead of world is destroyed, save it.
I think it is if they already advertise it. I saw some pictures of the game, and as you described, the art style looks really polished. So it really looks like well-made, well-crafted game.
I'm really looking forward to it. It's supposed to come out in April and planned for a PC and consoles. And it's also made by Primal Game Studio. They're based in Hungary. They've made some different games before as well, but I haven't played those. One is called Supernova, which is a MOBA set in space. And they also made a brawler called Beasts of Brawlia. So
We've played that.
No, me neither. But like Souls-like genre seems then something different for them this time. But I think that could be a good one.
Yeah, sounds interesting. Sounds like something where you can sink a few hours in.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Especially if you fall off the platforms all the time like me.
But you can parry bosses like no one else, I know.
Parry is more like you. You can do parry really, really well. I'm more the rolling guy. It's hell away from me.
Tactical role.
Exactly.
Nice. Yeah, cool. So that's the gaming year for 2025 then. So we have a few things coming our way.
Yeah, lots of more games, of course, coming out this year. And we will, of course, have a couple of episodes again this year for you all with some cool developers, some cool games. So just, keep liking, subscribing, and keep listening, please.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to our show. We're looking forward to an awesome 2025. Thanks, you guys and gals, for sticking with us. And you can look out for some new exciting stories in indie games with us, Open Indies.
Exactly.
So thank you very much for listening. Have a good one and
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So take care. Bye.
Bye.